the four cardinal virtues. Imagine standing at the crossroads of an ancient city where four paths stretch toward distant horizons. Each road bears a weathered stone marker: prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance. You've been walking these paths your entire life, though perhaps without noticing their names carved deep into marble by countless generations before you. The evening light catches the inscriptions, and you realize something peculiar. The more virtuous you try to become, the more you discover how much you still don't understand about virtue itself. Here lies one of philosophy's most enduring puzzles. The four cardinal virtues that have guided human conduct for over 2 millennia seem simple enough to name, yet prove mysteriously elusive to master. Prudence asks you to be wise, but wisdom often reveals how little you know. Justice demands fairness, yet every situation seems to contain competing claims of what's right. Fortitude calls for courage, but bravery in one moment might be recklessness in another. Temperance requests moderation, though even moderation can be taken to harmful extremes. The very pursuit of virtue, it seems, requires you to embrace uncertainty about what virtue truly means. Consider prudence first, the virtue of practical wisdom. On one hand, prudence invites you to gather information, weigh consequences, and choose thoughtfully. You learn to pause before speaking, to consider multiple perspectives, to seek advice from those who have walked similar paths. This seems straightforward enough. Be wise, make good decisions, learn from experience. Yet on the other hand, prudence can become its own trap. You might find yourself so caught up in analysis that you never act at all, so concerned with making the perfect choice that you miss opportunities for growth. The wisest people often confess how much they don't know, while those who claim certainty reveal their foolishness. The ancient Greeks spoke of prudence as phronesis, a kind of practical wisdom that knows not just what is true, but what is true in this moment. For these people, in these circumstances, you begin to see that prudence isn't about having all the answers. It's about developing a sensitivity to context, a willingness to hold your convictions lightly while still acting with conviction. This creates a fascinating tension. The more prudent you become, the more comfortable you grow with uncertainty. Justice presents its own contradictions. At first glance, justice seems to demand that you treat people fairly, give them what they deserve, respect their rights and dignity. You might think of justice as a balance scale, carefully weighing competing claims until equilibrium is reached. But step closer to any real situation requiring justice, and the simplicity dissolves. Does justice mean equality, giving everyone the same? Or does it mean equity, giving people what they need? When resources are scarce, how do you balance individual merit with collective need? When someone has been harmed, does justice require punishment, restoration, or forgiveness? You discover that justice often requires you to hold multiple truths simultaneously. A parent must be just to all their children, yet each child needs something different. A leader must consider both individual cases and systemic patterns. Justice in the small moments, letting someone merge in traffic, connects to justice in the large moments. How society allocates opportunities and resources. The virtue grows more complex the more deeply you examine it, like a fractal pattern revealing new layers at every level of magnification. Fortitude, or courage, reveals perhaps the most immediate paradox. Courage asks you to face your fears, to act rightly despite danger or difficulty. You might picture courage as charging forward boldly, confident, and unafraid. Yet true courage often feels quite different from this heroic image. Real courage frequently involves trembling hands and racing hearts, choosing to act not because you feel brave, but precisely because you feel afraid. The firefighter running into a burning building experiences fear. Courage lies not in the absence of that fear, but in the decision to serve others despite it. Moreover, fortitude isn't just physical bravery. It's the courage to be vulnerable, to admit mistakes, to stand up for unpopular truths. Sometimes courage means speaking, sometimes it means listening, sometimes it requires action, sometimes it demands patient endurance. You might find that your greatest acts of courage are invisible to others. The courage to change a harmful habit, to seek help when struggling, to remain kind when others are cruel. Fortitude reveals itself as both dramatic and humble, public and private, sudden and gradual. Temperance completes the quartet with its own puzzles. Temperance calls for moderation, balance, self-control. You're invited to enjoy life's pleasures without being enslaved by them, to want things without being owned by your wanting. This sounds reasonable. Eat, but not too much. Work, but leave time for rest. Enjoy success without becoming arrogant. Face failure without despair. Yet temperance proves surprisingly difficult to calibrate. How much is too much? How little is too little? The same amount of wine that brings joy to one person might bring misery to another. You begin to notice that temperance isn't about finding some universal formula for moderation. It's about developing an intimate awareness of your own patterns, tendencies, and needs. What feels moderate to you might be excessive or insufficient for someone else. Temperance becomes less about following rules and more about cultivating a responsive relationship with yourself and your circumstances. The virtue requires both discipline and flexibility, structure and spontaneity. The deeper paradox emerges when you consider how these four virtues interact. They don't exist in isolation. They weave together like colors in a tapestry. Prudence without courage becomes mere hesitation. Courage without prudence becomes recklessness. Justice without temperance can become rigid. Temperance without justice might enable harm. You find yourself navigating not just four separate virtues, but their countless combinations and tensions. Perhaps most surprisingly, pursuing virtue reveals how much it depends on recognizing your own imperfection. The person who claims to have mastered prudence reveals their foolishness. The one who boasts of their justice often displays bias. Those who claim fearlessness haven't truly faced danger. Those who judge others' moderation often hide their own excesses. Virtue seems to require what the Greeks called sophrosyne, a kind of ethical humility that knows itself and its limitations. As you rest in this contemplation, the ancient crossroads begins to feel less like a choice between different paths and more like a single journey with multiple dimensions. You don't master virtue once and finish. You keep walking these roads, discovering new aspects of wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation with each season of your life. The cardinal virtues become less like destinations and more like companions, guides who help you navigate while reminding you that the navigation itself is the point. Tonight, as your mind settles towards sleep, you might find a strange comfort in this uncertainty. The four cardinal virtues don't offer you a perfect map for living. They offer you better questions to ask along the way. It's not about becoming perfectly virtuous. It's about remaining curious about what virtue might mean.